In other MMA news, we had one announced retirement and 2 people going into the UFC Hall of Fame. Forrest Griffin.
Can I take a guess?
Say again?
Can I take a guess?
Oh, please do.
Is one the Forrest?
Yes.
Is the other one the one he fought in that monumental thing that turned the whole UFC around?
Yes.
I'm fucking great, man.
So Forrest Griffin announces his retirement, and he gets into the UFC Hall of Fame, along with his sidekick, his Robin to his Batman, Stephan Bonnar.
Yes, which is well-deserved.
Yeah, I don't know if this is great big news or anything, but my question is how is if you've been popped for steroids, you still get in? Because in baseball, you don't.
Yeah. I mean, I think, yeah. I mean, this is the thing. Like, I think with baseball, so many of your accomplishments there's so many records that go with baseball. You know, like the Hall of Fame in baseball, there's so many records that get you into the Hall of Fame. You know, you got to have X boundary average, X amount of home runs. It's your numbers. I don't think in MMA it's not numbers. You know what I mean? I think it's one really good juiced up performance. Right, it's your legacy, you know? Like, you can look at their legacy was, one of their legacies was one fight. One fight. My man had one fight. He never held the belt after that. I don't think he's ever beat anyone in the top 5 after that. I don't know if he's ever beaten anyone in the top 10. And then he gets popped for steroids. So what is his legacy? Well, that's the thing. That's where it's different. That's where it's different than baseball. Like, baseball, you couldn't get in the Hall of Fame with one performance. But because he was part... some people consider that fight between him and Forrest Griffin instrumental in bringing the UFC back to what it is today. And the fact that everybody considers that the greatest fight in UFC history, it plays a huge part in the sport. So that's why I think by default both of those guys get in. I mean, well, I can sort of understand, at least if you look at Forrest Griffin. At one point, he beat Rampage Jackson with leg kicks. He held the 205 belt for about 10 minutes. I mean, at least he did a little more with his, and maybe he was just a little bit better fighter than Stephan Bonnar. But then I think you saw the 205 class just blow right past Forrest Griffin as he stood there like a stick in the mud. Yeah, it just got to the point where, you know, I'm not trying to diminish anything they've done for the sport or for us as fans. I just find it kind of comical that one fight can put you in the Hall of Fame of your sport. And I understand the sport is still young, has a long way to go, and maybe they'll look back on these guys in 20, 30 years and be like, this is the reason we're here. And I hope so. I hope that's the way it works out. But just right now, to me, I just find it just comical. It is, you know, if you're in, someone can correct me if I'm wrong, but if you're in Canton, Ohio at the NFL Hall of Fame, they always talk about the 1958 NFL championship that was between the Giants. It was really cold and I don't know. I can't fucking think right now. But anyway, that game was it was such a monumental game. They always talk about that was the game that made the NFL mainstream, and they always talk about that, and it's really what brought a lot of interest in the NFL, and it's like an iconic game, and the people that were in that game are like iconic heroes, and I think that's kind of what you see with Forrest Griffin and this crazy and Stephan Bonnar. I couldn't even remember his name. It was the Baltimore Colts versus the New York Giants. Baltimore Colts versus the New York Giants. It went into overtime. It was actually played at Yankee Stadium in 1958 on December 28th. You see how quick you found information on that? Because I fucking Googled it. Right. But it's you. All you have to do is put 1958 championship, and bam, it comes up everywhere. And I guess all I put in was 1958 NFL, and then it filled in the rest. Yeah, it's like the most monumental game, and it's because, you know, I think Unitas was the quarterback for the Colts then. Sure. Okay. Yeah. But it was such a big game, and all those guys, a lot of those players in that game didn't have big NFL careers or anything, but a lot of them are recognized because they were part of that game that went in, Frank Gifford was running the old halfback for the Giants. He was. Yep. Frank Gifford was the halfback. Damn. The New York Giants, their offensive coordinator was Vince Lombardi. Their defensive coordinator was Tom Landry. Yeah. Isn't that crazy? Like, if you look at all the people... But anyway, back to MMA news. Okay. So, as you were saying, Kevin, you think that this fight can be looked at like the 1958 championship.
Yeah, I think that's what they do. I really do. I think that's what, there was UFC prior to that fight, just like there was NFL prior to the championship game in 58. But then after that, there was one event that you could say, okay, the timing was perfect, and it all of a sudden put your sport, that particular sport, into the mainstream. And I think that's what it was. And they were a part of that. So they're always going to go down as the two people that, in a fight, obviously, there's only two individuals. Right. So I guess that, that gets them in the Hall of Fame.